Every craving has a story. We'll decode what your body is really asking for through the lens of an acupuncturist.
Let us begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Acupuncture is My Life. I'm Dr. Lott, a New York State licensed, board-certified doctor of acupuncture. Many individuals today totally disregard a taste that they may be experiencing, whereas to an acupuncturist, that particular taste may be related to a deficiency within a certain internal organ. There are 5 general flavors that we should think about relative to this discussion. The first being bitter, the second being sweet, the third being aromatic, the fourth being spicy, and the fifth being sour in taste. And then there's another one, it's bland, but let's say you ever notice you may have a craving for bitter foods, or you may be experiencing a bitter taste in your mouth. To an acupuncturist, that could be a sign of a deficiency pattern relative to your heart and your small intestine. And the internal organs it's heavily associated with is the heart and the small intestine. The taste or the flavor of bitter is heavily tied or associated with summer months. Bitter foods are known to an acupuncturist for its cooling nature, its drying nature, its ability to detoxify. A lot of bitter foods are powerfully medicinal, and they're packed with nutrients which you'll normally find in leafy greens. Bitter foods are also wonderful at cooling heat, like when you're experiencing internal heat in the summer and you're sweating a lot. And it's also, to an acupuncturist, known for having the ability to calm your heart and to eliminate inflammation. And it also can benefit your liver. Bitter foods is also able to support your body's digestive functions, and many of you are unaware of that. An acupuncturist may, let's say, recommend bitter tasting herbs to sort of clear out internal dampness. But when it comes to foods, too much in the way of bitter foods, such as, let's say, coffee or tobacco or laxative teas, can cause dehydration and even diarrhea, which in turn can create internal heat within the body. Now, what are some good examples of bitter foods? Celery root, dandelion, coffee, tobacco, which I said earlier, black tea, green tea, chicory, chrysanthemum, honeysuckle, artichoke, and even celery. Another flavor I want to jump into is sweet. I'll encounter patients that have a craving for sweets. They just can't let it go. After an intake, it'll let me know if there's a deficiency pattern, let's say in their spleen and their stomach. When it comes to Western medicine, the spleen is seen as the spleen and recycling red blood cells and much more. To an acupuncturist or in Chinese medicine, the spleen, talked about thousands of years ago, closely related to the pancreas. In this case, when I discuss the spleen, it has similar functions to that of the pancreas. But also, sweet flavors are tied to the stomach as well. Sweet foods are ideal in food therapy. When I discuss sweet foods, I'm not talking about run out and get candy or take a 5-pound bag of sugar and just down it. When I reference sweet foods, I'm actually talking about sweet meaning that the food has natural sweetness or an abundance of complex carbohydrates, ranging from, let's say, a piece of mango or a carrot, or even a bowl of multi-grain rice, believe it or not, because multi-grain rice is seen as having this sweet flavor. Sweet flavored foods tend to be nourishing, they tend to be slightly warming and harmonizing as well as moistening. Half of your diet should actually come from sweet foods to sort of help strengthen your spleen, or should I say your pancreas, which then would prevent weak digestion as well as dampness accumulation within the body and water retention as well. Now, what can be a bit concerning nowadays, especially, is that individuals become very paranoid about having or eating anything that's sweet or rich in carbohydrates. But guess what? Our bodies, as well as our brain, depend on sweets, or should I say carbohydrates. I would say about 70% of your glucose intake is utilized by your brain, and many individuals are unaware of that. I'm not encouraging you to have chocolate chip cookies, but you should try and include foods like multi-grains, bone broth, root vegetables frequently in your diet. Nonetheless, moderation is always key. Too much of anything, whereas in this case, too much sweet flavor in your diet, especially in the form of processed foods or refined sugars, it can promote dampness. And this is where you see people hocking up phlegm or just feeling as if they have too much phlegm in the chest. And it can cause metabolic issues like obesity, skin problems, and certain imbalances within the spleen, or should I say pancreas. Now, some good examples of sweet foods are most fruits. I would say also include like carrots or most nuts, chicken, pumpkin, rice, even oats and beef, black sesame, or honey or Chinese yam, and jujube dates. Now, another taste that many individuals may find themselves craving is aromatic foods. When this is brought up, it gives insight to the acupuncturist that there may be a deficiency pattern in the lungs or large intestine. But one thing I do want to ask, let's say, can you think of the last time that you took a sip of, let's say, warm chai latte, or you ate a satisfying spoon of curry? Aromatic foods is more tied to spicy foods. When you've tasted curry, the warmth and spiciness that you felt, that's the effect of aromatic foods. It tends to be heavily associated with your lungs and your large intestine. Aromatic flavor tends to move chi. Now, chi is synonymous with energy. So when you hear me speak of chi, sort of think of energy in a way. Aromatic foods tends to move chi. It tends to loosen stagnation anywhere in the body. It tends to have the ability or the propensity to disperse cold and dampness, and it strengthens the lungs as well. You may find that in many cultures, aromatic foods are used to protect their bodies against seasonal flu, and even having the ability to relieve cold symptoms. Its ability to stimulate or even boost our immune system is very valuable. Now, aromatic foods, they also tend to be warming in nature, and they can help sort of like warm your digestive system or digestive organ to promote healthy digestion and even remove some of that internal dampness as well. But I want you to keep in mind, consuming too much aromatic flavored foods or spicy foods, spicy chips or hot sauce or hot wings, can also lead to internal heat within the lungs and your liver. And it can cause, like, let's say, skin issues, hair loss, bouts with anger and restlessness, and even insomnia. And it may also even cause dryness within the large intestine that'll lead to constipation. The best time to use aromatic flavored foods is usually in the fall or even winter. Some of the best aromatic foods that I like are like dry spices, ginger, radish, or I would even say thyme, watercress, fennel, garlic, shiso leaf, scallion. Now, another flavor that I find a lot of my patients craving is salt. To an acupuncturist, there may be some type of deficiency pattern associated with the kidneys or even the bladder. Salt is associated with those two organs, both the kidney and bladder. Salty flavored foods have the ability to soften nodules. Sometimes people get nodules on their necks or in the back of their head, on their arms, on their legs, and salt flavor has the ability to soften those nodules. It also has the ability to relax tension. It's known to guide chi down. Now, when I say chi, again, that's energy, synonymous with energy. I rarely, or in rare cases, do I recommend salty flavored foods to my patients to add to their diet because it's such a common flavor in most individuals' diets already. And the more salt that we eat, the more that our palate would tend to crave. It then would lead to excessive intake of salty flavored foods or salt in and of itself. If this vicious cycle continues, can create certain imbalances within our body, especially our kidneys and the heart. Too much salty flavor tends to damage body fluids, blood, bones, and it can even cause hypertension, dehydration, and even decreased mental abilities. If you just had an excessive amount of salt in the recent meal that you ate, make sure you drink plenty of yin nourishing herbal teas with a sweet nature, such as monk fruit, mulberry, but do not cut salty flavor out of your diet completely because it's essential for water regulation within your body. And just to name a few salty flavored foods, octopus, soy sauce, even sea salt, as well as miso. Now, the next flavor is sour. I get this a lot from some of my patients. Doc, I have this sour taste. Now, sour flavored foods are heavily associated with both the liver and the gallbladder. And sour flavor tends to be astringent, generates and preserves fluids, and it tends to nourish the yin aspect of your body. Now, I want to do a separate video discussing yin and yang and why it must remain in balance and how we can use foods that will help keep yin and yang in balance. Sour flavored foods is also known to guide qi in to alleviate excessive sweating, cools heat internally. Now, when I say cools heat internally, that's more so heat that exists like on the surface area of your body, as well as in the liver. Sour flavored foods tends to help keep us hydrated. That's why a glass of, let's say, lemonade or lemon water is so quenching and refreshing. But I will say this, too much sour flavor, such as a shot of pure apple cider vinegar on an empty stomach, large amounts of sour fruits, it can hurt a person's stomach, causing issues such as, let's say, acid reflux, stomach tightness, even joint inflammation, which I'm sure many of you are unaware of. Examples of sour foods can be lemon, kiwi, tomato, peas, plums, grapes, strawberry, hawthorn berry, and those are just a few examples of sour foods. Another flavor that many of you guys underestimate, bland. Acupuncturists tend to recommend bland flavors and herbal formulas. Bland flavored foods, which can be found in seeds or poria, tend to promote urination as well as dry internal dampness. Now, this whole month, I'll be sharing more content about eating for wellness and balance. You can check out this playlist for more helpful tips. Make acupuncture a part of your life because acupuncture is my life. What's yours?